So let's say you do have some data and you want to move it around the spreadsheet. Like maybe you entered in a day's worth of data and you forgot. Maybe you skipped a day. And now you've got to copy it and paste it lower and then go back and delete it and make room so that you can now insert some other data that you might have forgotten to enter. It's really easy to do. Barry, why don't you show us how we copy and paste and move data around the spreadsheet if we need to?
Okay, great. It's okay to use the copy and paste. What you don't want to do is highlight an entire row and hit the insert or delete key. You don't want to insert or delete rows. Okay? We'll also talk to you about how you can add rows into the data log in a second too. But don't highlight a row and hit insert or delete. What you want to do is go ahead and highlight from columns A to K, say 2 trades, and then hit your copy or Control C, or if you don't use Control C, you can do Edit Copy on the menu at the top. So I use the keys to do it. So I'm going to highlight A through K and hit Control C to copy. I'm going to skip a line because I'm going to make these a different day, but I want to just copy those trades in for some reason. Okay, so I'm going to go to the line 33. I'm going to hit Control V for paste, or I'm going to hit Edit Paste, or the Edit tab or the Edit menu. I'm going to hit Edit Paste, and so there they are. Those trades are in there, and notice that the traded summary information over on the right highlighted. It was exactly the same 2 trades, so there's a $36 win and an $8 or an 8-point loss on the other. So what we're going to do though is come over here. Because we left a blank line in between, we did that because the day changed. So of course we need to change the date. So I'm going to just go in and use the standard editing keys to change those 2 to the 18th, 3/18. So I would change the date, and let's say that again this was a trail, so I select it, or you got to type it in. Okay, say that our starting time was now 2 o'clock in the morning and it was 10 o'clock later that day. We'll just leave the price and everything else the same, but we just took 2 trades, copied and pasted them. That should take care of that. So again, it's just copy and paste and then change the data. You just always got to remember, when the day changes, you want to leave a blank line, and when the week changes, you want to leave a blank line and put in there the week. And that gives you the subtotal over here under the weekly column AS over here. Now gives you the subtotal for that week was $56. The subtotal for each day was, again, it was points. The subtotal for each day was 28 points. Okay?
So that's great. So just a quick reminder, you can copy and paste. You don't want to insert or delete lines. You also don't want to cut and paste. If you need to remove something, highlight it and delete it with your delete button. Don't use the Control X to cut. Okay, once you've copied and pasted, now you want to go back and delete what you copied. You just highlight over it, hit the delete button. If you forget, you can always hit the refresh formula and it will restore your formula. So a really great feature. We're going to look a little bit now at a spreadsheet that's loaded up with data. But before we do, I want to show you one additional really cool feature. It's at the bottom of the spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and get to the bottom of the spreadsheet. Okay, I've moved down to the bottom here where we've actually hit the bottom of the line where there actually is no way to enter more trades. You've entered in, let's say, 825 trades and you've run out of space. There's no more room in the spreadsheet. There's this nifty little feature down here at the bottom. You'll see the button that says Add 10 Rows. So if you want to keep putting data onto this spreadsheet, it's very easy to do. All you have to do is add more rows, and they will be added, and they'll already be formatted with all the formulas where they need to be. So it's pretty cool. You just click on it, and the next thing you know, you got 10 more rows. Pretty cool feature.
Now we'd hit go to last trade, which would have been about 10 or 12 rows up, but we'll go ahead and click, in this case, go to last trade. Now this is going to be way up at the top of the sheet because we only have a couple trades in there. So there we are, back to the last trade.
Excellent. Yeah, so that's a really nice feature. So I think what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to our crude oil spreadsheet, which is loaded with data, and we're going to explore a little bit about these subtotaling, leaving spaces between our sessions, and the best way to use the week and month subtotal feature, which is actually a very powerful feature, and it's important you understand how it works.
And don't forget to save your sheet
Thanks, Barry.
after all that work.
Okay, so here's our crude sheet, and you'll see up above we've got 650 trades. This spreadsheet's got a lot of data in it, and we're at the bottom of our data. We're down at row 787, and what I want to do is we're going to flip it over to basic view so that we can look at the subtotals, and we can scroll down our trade result column, and we're also going to start at the beginning of the data and scroll down, so we can easily hit the go to first trade button, and that's going to take us back up to the top, which it just did. As we scroll down, you're going to notice in column AR, in the session summary section, remember we're in basic view now, everything that you see in that column is going to be a subtotal of the session's results, all the trades that we took between blank lines, blank spaces. Okay, so you got September 28th, 09, and then you'll see on row 36, there's nothing there. That's because on row 37, we started a new session on September 29th. Also, you'll notice on column V is the actual result of each trade. And so as we scroll down the spreadsheet, we're able to see the results of each trade. We're able to see the results of the session. And as we get to the end of the week, we're going to also see the weekly subtotal, which you'll see in column AS. And we made a nifty 796 points in crude that week, $7.96, a very lucrative week. But the reason why it's subtotaled in AS is because we left a blank space after October 2nd, and we put in the week setting off of that drop-down menu, and we left another blank space before we started then the new week on October 5th. Okay, so let's just scroll down a little further, and you'll see what happens then on the next week. We'll go down one more week, we'll keep going, and all of a sudden there's some losses, some winners. You can see the results of each session, and here's the next week's subtotal. Notice that if you subtract out, if you erase that week in setting in column B, the subtotal goes away in column AS. So you could take it out and put it in whenever you want, and the spreadsheet is going to update. So we just took it out, see how it disappeared? Of course, we want to put it back in. Let's put it back in. So at the end of each month then, we will put in a month subtotal. So if we go down to the end of October 31st, we'll see what the subtotal is for the entire month. And that's going to be in column AT. You see how October 30th between November 2nd, you want to have enough blank spaces between those sessions so that you can put in the weekly subtotal and the monthly subtotal. Now that monthly subtotal is going to include all the trades above it up until it finds the prior month subtotal. So in this case, it's including those last couple days in September. If you'll remember, we started this on September 28th because that happened to be a Monday. But October started on a Thursday. So in this case, it's including those first few days, those last few days in September, since it was the beginning of the week. But what if we wanted to get just the subtotal for the month of October and we didn't want to include those September days? All we have to do is go up and find the blank space between September 30th and October 1st. And we could type in month on the B column in that blank space. Now a couple things are going to happen. First of all, you'll see a subtotal show up for the trades above, which there were the 3 September trades. But more importantly, in this case, if we scroll back down to the bottom of October, it is now subtotaling everything between those 2 month settings that we put in. And now it's going to give you the exact subtotal for the month of October. So it's very important that you understand that. Of course, the thing to know is that once you did put the month setting in between September 30th and October 1st, it changed the subtotal for that week, because the weekly subtotal is now only going to include everything below the month that we typed in right there. You see where it says month between September 30th and October 1st? The weekly subtotal now is only going to include October 1st and October 2nd. It's not going to include the 3 days above until we delete that month setting that we put in. So you could take it in and put it out, take it in and take it off whenever you want, depending on what kind of subtotals you want to see. Barry, I don't know, was that clear? Was that understandable? Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that does it. The most important thing, though, is you'll notice that we did this and we didn't leave the blank lines. Normally, between months, you should leave 4 blank lines to give you the option of putting in, deciding where you want the week to end and the month to end. So one option is you can always end a month and a week on Friday of the month, even if you have a little fewer days less than the month, because they carry it over into the next week. It's how you want to keep track of it. If you end your weeks on a Friday, even though you may be 1 or 2 days into the next month, then your weekly numbers will be more accurate. Your monthly number will be a little off by 1 or 2 days, but you had to put those 2 days in either the month before or the month after. It doesn't really matter.
Right. So you can input the month here just to see what the actual October result was, but then you can go back and delete it, and once you take it out, now it's going to combine those 5 days and give you the accurate weekly total. So
yes, so
you
in
have
this
some
case,
flexibility.
Yeah, so in this case you have an actual 5-day week, and so that number's reflecting a 5-day week. That's my preference, is to always have a week end on Friday and a month end on a Friday.
Yes,
so
and that's my preference too, but if I happen to be, I don't know, writing an article, what were my October results, or who knows what, I can come to the spreadsheet, put in that monthly subtotal, grab the number, and then delete it again. So the spreadsheet is flexible enough that you can work with it in such a way.
Yep, that sounds good.
And I think that pretty much wraps up, how to enter data and how to label your columns and your cells, and how to refresh your formulas, clear the log, your basic view, expand view, how to go to the first trade, go to the last trade. I'm pretty sure we pretty much covered everything we need to in this video. On the next video, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about...
I think we're going to start talking about these statistics, these summary statistics up here on the top of the log. There's a lot of statistics there, and there's actually a couple different sections in here for money management, statistical summary. We got to remember that there's some data over here on the left for the start date and end date of the analysis. And here's one more thing. We didn't change the analysis start row and end row from 30 to 787. Remember, right now this has been told to analyze all these statistics going down to row 787. So that's about it. On the next video we'll be talking about these summary statistics, and we'll see you there.